Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to Muslim Network TV. I'm your host, Muhammad Maxwell Hassan. Yes, my middle name is Maxwell, and you are joining today with Canada Today Youth Edition. If this is the first time you're stopping by, I want to welcome you with open arms and here to talk all about the truth about Muslim youth. That's what it was all about. Now, for today's conversation, we're going to be diving into something pretty common. Now, you see, Canada is a land of opportunity. It's where people come on board and try to make a life for themselves. And for some youth, students who are trying to stop by into this golden land of opportunity, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things that, that happen in this whole process. Well, with me here today, we have two very special co-guests who not just read this in the textbook, but they've actually experienced it. They lived it, trying to build their Canadian dream. And so with us here today, we have Sister Javeria Rahman. She came to Canada as an international student in August 2010. She graduated with a double major in communication studies and political science from York University in 2014. She started working full-time a few months after and has become a buyer and inventory analyst in procurement in business. She currently works as a senior inventory analyst at En Route, which is in Ontario Motorways. And she got married in 2016 and lives with her husband in GTA. Currently, they're both working from home, no doubt because of coronavirus. But thank you so much for stopping by, Sister Javeria, for sharing and your experiences here with this very pertinent topic. With us here today as well, we got the one and only Bilal Rafai. He's a Syrian Canadian who was born and raised in the UAE. He moved to Canada to pursue his undergraduate studies at UTM and doing a double major in biology and management. He then obtained his master's in management and professional accounting. And throughout his university years, Bilal's been a very involved student as a leader, spending 3 years as an executive in the MSA, which is the Muslim Student Association, and another year as a president of the Athletic Council. Bilal is now a senior associate at PwC Canada, working in IT and business consulting. And fun fact for you all, we both went to the same university and we were both in the same MSA team. So Bilal, it's so nice to see you again and having you join us here today. And so for today's conversation, as always, for all of our guests, I always like to dive into people's stories, getting to know where you started from. So let's go, ladies first, with Sister Javeria. Could you kindly let the viewers know about your own story? How did you arrive here in this golden land of opportunity of Canada? What was your experience like, if you could summarize it in a nutshell?
So I pursued my high school in Karachi, Pakistan, and a lot of my friends were applying abroad, and Canada was their number one go-to. So naturally, when my friends applied, I applied too. But initially, my parents were very skeptical of sending me abroad alone. But I made it. I got my visa, and then I landed here with my friends. Initially, it was something very new, very different, but I came here in 2010, like a decade ago, and pursued my undergrad at York University.
All right, great, wonderful, mashallah. So that's nice and simple. So now, Bilal, could you tell us your story? How did you, from UAE, how did you get from UAE all the way here to Canada? What's your story to tell?
Sure, Haman. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. So yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in UAE, lived there approximately 18 years, did my high school over there, so did it in Shuifat, for those who know what Shuifat is, and then moved to Canada in 2012. So I believe in 2006, actually, I think that's when my parents started applying for our immigration to Canada, and it just happened that we got it the year I was going to do my undergrad. So I moved here to Canada in 2012, did 4 years of undergrad. So as you mentioned in the intro, I did my undergrad in biology and management, finished those 4 years, and then I moved on to pursue my master's. So I did my master's in management and accounting, got my CPA, and now I'm working in business and IT consulting at PwC. And yeah, I've been ever since over here. Yeah, it's been a great experience and journey so far.
MashaAllah. Well, we're going to dive into each of your experiences. I'm sure there's a lot more to tell. There's so much to go on. There's so much behind the scenes. But again, we'd love to hear more about it. So as a starting point, let me start with Bilal for a moment. Based on your general observations, what are some common problems or issues that, let's say, particularly young Muslims face when they, let's say, have plans to move to Canada? What are some of the things that you feel as an as someone not only who's lived through it, but like generally, what are some of the observations you noticed with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think and this is whether you're going to Canada or anywhere else. I think the biggest thing is really to adapt to the new environment that you are in. So coming in from a different country, of course, it's a very different culture. A lot of times it might be a different language, so language barrier would be something that you need to get over. But adapting to the new culture, which also includes, adapting to the system, adapting to the standards of living, adapting to the environment, the people you're meeting, all these different things really impact the way or how a person really gets to get into the new country or their new place. So in terms of Canada, you're coming to a completely new culture, completely different country. It really takes a lot of time for you to adapt and build that connection with where you are. So I think that's the biggest thing. And of course, other than that, it comes with a lot of different problems. As I mentioned, language barrier would be one of them. Finding the right community for you where you can fit in, feel like you're at home, find your new family in that new country. I feel like those are some of the biggest and more popular challenges that people face.
SubhanAllah, finding your new family, that's an interesting one. And the language barrier is clearly another big roadblock. So fair. Sister Javeria, do you have any other observations? Is it the same, or have you found anything else in particular that really was a roadblock that you notice a lot of Muslims face when they're, particularly youth, that they face when they're stopping by and trying to build a new life here in Canada?
So language barrier may not be for most, because a lot of people who make it here have to pass the English test, but also have English as their first language. So not the language itself, but maybe the accent or the dialect. I found around me and a lot of people, surrounding me. When I first came here, I'd sit on the transit and they'd be like, "Oh, your English is so good," and I would just think about it. I'm not sure what they mean, where you're coming from. Is that somewhere you don't speak English, or like, how does it work? So the dialect more, not so much the language itself. So there is that. Apart from that, I also believe a lot of us, the youth, like you mentioned, use maybe cars and drivers from where they come from. So transit using the bus or the subway or the train is something I personally much had to adapt myself to something. Apart from that, a lot of people who were from like-minded or similar kind of surroundings wouldn't feel that difference. But for me, transit was a big one. Like running, catching the bus. Sometimes it's just like it just passes by in front of you. A lot of the times, the drivers they don't wait for you. There's that, and then the transit as well as the transit cost. And the last one, the challenge that I would face is the currency conversion that happens maybe in your mind the whole time, because initially when you come here as an international student, your parents, send you with some sort of pocket money or money that you're supposed to divide and budget and spend. So that constant conversion that, okay, something here costs $10, so how many rupees or dirhams or riyals is that? So that's something that initially happened. And I've seen people like my friends, we'd all talk about it, because Pakistani rupee is twice that of an Indian rupee, and you can keep talking about it. But I realized after the first or second year that kind of it just subsides. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, sister. I have to say a couple of things. Like, number one, about the dialect, SubhanAllah, even me, for someone who was born and raised here, I can't tell you how many times individuals been constantly mistaking me for an American for a lot of times, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so the dialect is one. It's not just limited to a lot of internet, but that's a very real thing. SubhanAllah. The second thing as well about the bus. Holy smokes! Let me tell you, Sister Javeria, you just brought up a lot of nightmares for me personally. I remember, no disrespect to them, but at the end of the day, sometimes I think we can all relate to it at one point or another. That
I
feeling.
drive now, but
Right.
I feel for those who take the transit. I mean, it snows. It used to be like minus 25 degrees, and you're just, or maybe it's like hail and storm, and like it's raining, or it's like the scorching heat, and people, you just have to walk, run, take the transit, change different buses, take a bus, take a subway,
Oh yes.
Yeah, I
I hear
remember.
you loud and clear.
I think even especially coming from a place where buses is not a common public transportation
like,
means that people use,
yeah.
right? So you gotta
You drive around in the UAE, Dubai.
Yeah. cabs or you just drive around. Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay, so that's great, Paula. So let me ask Bilal. Let me ask you: was there a moment? Can you remember something? Let's say I know now, mashallah, I think you've pretty much settled in. You're, like you said, about being adaptable to the environment that you're in, finding that new family. Can you recall a particular moment where you were saying, "Wow, this place is totally not like UAE at all. Like this is completely, it's a new world for me." Like, was it a time like Sister Javeria where somebody commented on your dialect, or was it something that you saw that, wow, this is totally different? Was there any moment like that you can recall?
Yeah. I think because I came from UAE might be a bit different. Came from a place that was very multicultural, very similar to Canada in many ways. So coming here, I didn't find that many challenges, or I didn't find that many so many different things that were as different between UAE and Canada. So yeah, other than some of those examples that we mentioned, currency conversion is definitely a big thing when I came here. Like Javeria, it's always constantly trying to convert
working.
Exactly, right. But yeah, no, I think in general, I didn't find that many differences other than the language. UAE primarily Arabic versus here primarily English. A lot of the things were very similar between the two countries. Yeah.
MashaAllah. So how about you, Sister Javeria? I'll give you one example that I've come across with others. They say they were so shocked with the multiculturalism. They've never seen so many different people from so many different backgrounds all in the same place. This was new. Like this was unheard of in their home country. Was there a moment in particular for you that you felt like, wow, Canada is totally different than where I was raised?
So yes, Canada is very different from where I'm raised, because in Pakistan, it's not like UAE. You see only one kind of people, and even religion-wise, their majority are Muslims. So the school I went to, we had different students from different religions, not so much as a majority, but a small minority. But at the same time, there was still one kind of people, like look-wise, or like what you wear, or how you speak. But when I came here, I wasn't it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so different. But because I've seen North America in TV, like I've seen in movies, I've grown up watching TV and movies, so I am exposed to it. But at the same time, I'm still I admire Canada, because even when the three of us sitting here are all different, so that's the quality Canada is built on, and that's why I chose to come to Canada, because of the multiculturalism I've heard about. My friends have told me. I have so much family here. So yes, it's not something that like amazes me as like it's something so different, but it is something that I admire and I like about Canada.
MashaAllah, that's great. Actually, this is a great segue into another conversation. I'll start with you, Sister Javeria, since you kind of brought this up. Are there any sort of misconceptions that you would address? Let's just say someone is from a different country, and let's just say Pakistan as an example, from your home country, and they have ideas about Canada. They are reading books, they watch videos, they see images. Are there any particular misconceptions that you would like to address that you found when it comes to, let's say, Muslim youth who are trying to come to Canada, into this promised land? What would you say are some misconceptions that you found? And then we'll move on to Bilal, what he thinks.
Well, a lot of times people think like if you've made it here, you know, I feel like they think that's it. Like you've made it here and this is it. A lot of times they don't realize that even though you're here, you have to still work hard. You need to work hard to keep your job. You need to work hard to fight for your simple rights, as not being overcharged for something. If you have kids, you need to make sure that, they have the proper schooling. Maybe they're not bullied in school. So it's not like when you've come to Canada or the US that you've made it. No, it's a constant struggle. It's not that, you made it from point A to point B and that it's ended. So the misconception of maybe thinking that life is it's just like you've made it and life is easy now from there. No, you still have to work hard, and unemployment rate is very high. There's so many problems. There's so much, things are getting expensive by the day. There's inflation. The Canadian dollar has fallen. There's so many different challenges that we have here that we may not have back home. I understand every country has its own challenges, but the misconception of coming here and that you've made it, or that, because you live abroad, you earn way more than somebody who's living in in a different country, which is not in on the northern side. I believe it's a big misconception. That would be my one and only one. That, and the other one I would feel would be more maybe weather-wise. I've heard that the weather is really good here. So yes, we are blessed. We get to see all 4 seasons. But just because, it's like a scorching heat somewhere doesn't mean that we don't get that here. Yes, we may be more blessed because there's no, load shedding, which is something you could say when they decide to cut power from different areas in a city at different times at a selected time. But at the same time, we still have our own challenges here when it comes to weather, electricity. We get storms here, our roofs are blown off. So we have our own challenges when it comes to that.
That's good. So number one, I got from that, there's no handouts. Don't expect a handout every time. You got to work, you got to earn your stripes at all times. And speaking of weather, I've heard it been put like this with regards to Canada. Canada has 2 seasons, winter and construction. Just remember that.
That's right.
Canada's all about.
For sure.
So Bilal, I'll take it to you. What are some misconceptions that you've come across? Let's say somebody has an idea of Canada, a Muslim youth. What would you say are some misconceptions that you would like to have cleared up?
Yeah, I would definitely echo Sister Javeria's point. First of all, especially in the Middle East, a lot of people have this misconception that, all of us living in North America, we're the rich people, that's where the money is, life is easy, all sort of things. So that's definitely a huge misconception, especially in the Middle East. But just in general, I think for the Muslim youth who are trying to come here, at least one of my own misconceptions was it's not easy to find the community that you're looking for, whether it's a Muslim community, whether Arab community, Pakistani community, a community where you can belong to. It's Canada is known to be the country of immigration, and people come from all sorts of places, but one of the biggest misconceptions is, once you make it here, is it easy for you to find that community? And as I mentioned previously, a family that you can belong to. So yeah, when I came here, that was one of the great things about this country, is that because it's multicultural, people are really sticking together, and it's very, especially here, at least in the GTA, especially here, it's to some extent easy for you to find that community where you can go to, and yeah.
MashaAllah, great point. So let's shift gears a little bit. And although we're not scholars, so again, I want to make this disclaimer here, but because we're talking about Muslim youth in particular, one topic that constantly gets brought up is how can you practice Islam in a secular country? If you look at Canada, anywhere you go, you'll find, but there's not like there's some countries around the world where they have like a dominant religion. And in this case, with Canada, it's a secularist society. Let's ask Sister Javeria again, from a non-scholarly point of view, what would you say to someone who is hesitant or worried or wondering, can you practice Islam in Canada? What would you make of that?
So I would want to say, Alhamdulillah, we can practice Islam in Canada. We can do it openly. I've spent the latter half of my life, the more where, you're grown up and, you have seen the challenges and you have the ability to think and act. That latter part of my life, of the past 10 years, have been here in Canada. And I believe I can practice Islam here more openly and easily compared to Pakistan. I can go to a mosque here. I can drive and go to a mosque whenever I want. I can't do that in Pakistan. I can't get up 5 a.m. if I want to go for a Fajr, for example, or even for Eid prayers. There's not much of a trend there. Or when you're late, when you have to stay up late for Tarawih, you're dependent on your family, maybe a driver, maybe your brother, somebody who can take you, bring you. But here I can just take the car, I can go on my own. Or even if I have to take the bus, it's still relatively safer and easier to do that. Then a different point would be that Eid gatherings here, when you're in university, the MSA, stuff like that, that's not much of a big deal in the country where I come from. Yes, we're all religious there too. People who want to practice religion can, but it's more cultural there. They don't have MSA kind of student unions in schools there or universities there. They have more different kinds of unions, but not more catered to religion. Even at York University, they would have like a Friday prayer where, like in the student center, and it was very easy for them to host something like that. I'm not sure, maybe I don't want to speak because I haven't really attended university in Pakistan, but I'm not sure if they would do that there. Probably if they'd go to a mosque, but I'm not sure if they have stuff like that, in universities there. So for me, I would say personally, it's been easier, if I try to compare with Pakistan, it's relatively easier and I can practice Islam more freely here.
All right, wonderful. So how about you, Bilal? Do you share the same sentiments? Do you have any nuances? What would you say about your experience about practicing Islam here in Canada?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sister Javeria. I would start though with the negatives, the opposite side of the spectrum. So definitely, the fact that you're living in a country that's secular, predominantly Christian, it's not as easy to find the resources to practice your religion. Of course, if you're living in a city or an area where there's a lot of Muslims, it's more readily available. But even something like, when people come here for high schools, for example, compared with UAE, at least, there's a lot more drugs. There's other sort of problems that you might not find in a Muslim community or a Muslim country. Alcohol is something that's very dominant over here. So, for new kids, the youth coming here, that might be a challenge. They might be intimidated by the environment around them and the people around them, when the majority of the people might practice something that's against their faith. So I think those are some of the challenges. And again, mosques are not as readily available. So for example, in a Muslim country, every 2 blocks you'll find a mosque. In Ramadan, for example, everyone's fasting together. All companies, whether public or private companies, they would operate for shorter days to allow people to fast, go to Taraweeh, these kind of things. So things like this obviously makes a difference. And, as we were saying, you got to adapt to an environment like this. But that being said, Canada is a very open country, and it does allow for diversity in religions. And so being able to practice your religion and finding your niche is something that's easily provided here. And going back to Sister Javeria's points, going to the mosque whenever you want, attending lectures, events, finding the right community, going to the mosque clubs at university like MSAs, all these different things, because it's a niche, because it's a tight community, people tend not to take it as granted as much as somewhere in the Middle East where religion is everywhere. People tend to take it more for granted, but over here, those who are interested, they can find the resources and they can go and take advantage of it.
MashaAllah. So it's you what does it say? Like, what the seeker seeks, the prove, or what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. Meaning, if you're finding whatever you want to find, you'll find whatever you're looking for. So if you're going towards, let's say you're more inclined towards masajid and religious knowledge, you'll find it. If you're more inclined towards, let's say, not so moral things, you'll also find it here too. So it's all about what you decide and choose to look for. So mashallah, it's important to kind of explore these things. It's not all sunshine and rainbows at all times, but it's important to keep everyone's eyes open. Now, here's another kind of conversation. I want to be very delicate about it, very sensitive about it, because I know, mashallah, things can get out of hand very quickly. But I want to approach this topic because this is a very real thing. Although you may not see it face to face, or if you do see it face to face, it's very rare. But definitely online, it's very loud. And in particular, the question I wanted to explore with you both is that there may be this sort of, how do I say, atmosphere or perception that people who are immigrants, there's this thing of saying, oh, people who constantly come to this country, come to Canada, they're kind of messing with the identity of Canada and always, trying to say, oh, you look at Bilal, he's smiling, where this is going, right? So sometimes there's this rhetoric that's constantly going around having this negative connotation with regards to immigrants, saying that a lot of times you may have heard of people saying they're the source of the problem. Too much immigration is a problem. Too much multiculturalism is a problem. And, if things were so great in your home country, why don't you just stay there? Things of that nature, It's varying degrees, but the sentiment is ultimately the same. They point towards immigration as saying it's not so great if it's too much of it. I'll ask Sister Javeria if I can kindly ask, I want to be as delicate and sensitive as possible to this. I'm curious, what do you make of this sort of rhetoric? What are some of the things that maybe you've seen or heard or perhaps even experienced when it comes to this sort of outlook?
So I believe that anything when you start to abuse, it becomes a problem. So if you have too many rights and you start using them for everything, that becomes a problem. If you get maybe too many funds from the government, then you don't want to work. It's free money. So I do understand when some people say that immigration is a problem, but it depends on what kind. Is it refugees? Is it the older generation? Is it like the baby boomers? Who's coming here? I've heard a lot of people say that, their taxes pay for so many people with so many kids, and those people don't want to work because they're getting child benefit. So stuff like that. So it all depends on perspective. Obviously, it's not right to say that because you don't know the other person's story. You're just basing it off of bias just because Canada is a country where you have to pay so many taxes so that everybody is equal here. So I like that, but at the same time, I understand when somebody who earns way more has way more tax deducted, and somebody who is not earning that much also has some tax deducted. So I understand where that comes from, especially with immigration, because when immigrants come here, it's so tough for them. It's hard for them to find jobs. A lot of them are jobless, and if they have kids or like elder people in the family, then they have to support those too. So I understand where this point comes from, but at the same time, I would say Canada is a country where you're coming here, what you're coming here for. nothing's hidden from, like, the government doesn't hide anything. That having everybody equal here is one of the things they work towards. Everybody gets the same kind of education. All kids can go to school. There's no discrimination. So yes, there is a misconception about immigrants, even refugees, but at the same time, I would say that Canada is a country which is built up on immigration. So suck it up.
All right, mashallah, great. So Bilal, what's your take on this conversation?
For sure. So yeah, a couple of points. First point is, like Sister Javeria said, Canada is a country that's based on immigration. So first of all, we do need people. It's a huge country. It's a huge land. I would say 80%.
There's still so much land.
Exactly. I would say 80% of it is
Canada is bigger than the US.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there is room for growth. It's not like immigrants are coming in to take other people's space. So again, first point is that we need the growth. It's based on immigration. Second of all, there's strength in diversity, right? So having diverse people coming from different parts of the world is actually a strength that Canada prides itself in. Having different opinions, viewpoints, people from different experiences, it's definitely a strength for a country like Canada. And then third of all, the nice thing about Canada is that there's no discrimination, or everyone is given the same opportunity. So you come in, everyone is on the same ground. Depending on how hard you work on yourself, you can succeed in this country, right? So there's unlike in some places in the Middle East, it's not like you come in here because you're Canadian, you get certain privileges that other people don't get, right? So everyone is on the same ground. You work hard on yourself, you'll make it, right? So, as Sister Javeria said, if people are coming here just to abuse the system and just take advantage of the welfare, well, there are other people who are going to come in, work hard, make their way up, succeed, and improve the situation of the country and give back to the country, whether politically, economically, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I definitely think immigration is a strength. There's strength in diversity, and immigrants, for the most part, who are coming here, first of all, they're being filtered by the government. So the government is making sure that most of the people coming here are actually well-educated, able to enhance the standard of living of this country.
All right, mashallah. So a lot to take in here. I appreciate both of you sharing your thoughts on this. I've heard it been put like this, that sometimes we think of, let's say, North America in general. We're Canada, but there is this melting pot where you have people from different cultures and they all kind of melt into one unified identity. Another way to look at it, though, is that imagine we're all in a salad, right? A salad bowl, right? Everybody comes into with their own unique identities, their own unique qualities, and you will have it. So there's some tomatoes, there's some lettuce, there's some onions. They don't try to force each other to kind of change into something else. You each bring your own qualities and kind of make that salad. So I think, unfortunately, like they say, one rotten apple spoils the bunch. So for every person that does make their does their due diligence, that does work hard, that is ethical, that does put a good foot forward, there is going to be someone, like Sister Javeria mentioned, that there is someone who cheats the system, tries to, gives a bad impression overall, and then just kind of as a smear campaign. So in this regard, like I guess echoing what Bilal is saying, that, everyone, it's a relatively equal playing field. If you work hard, you do your right thing, and you're smart about it, you're ethical, then inshallah you'll achieve some level of success. So great points for both of you here. Now in this part of the segment, I'd like to also open up the conversation regarding resources. I think Bilal touched on this before about how difficult it could be for especially young Muslim youth who are transitioning from their previous life to the Canadian lifestyle and trying to adapt. They're trying to scramble around, finding their place. What's the first thing to do? So Sister Javeria, if you knew then what you know now, what are some resources that you could point towards that really helped you out tremendously when making that smooth transition into the Canadian lifestyle?
There would be a couple of things. The first would be to do your own research. Never just take somebody's word. What might work for someone might not work for you. So very simple, anything to do starting with a cell phone plan all the way to, which school you want to go to or what major you want to take. Do your own research, see, sure, you should take, like if someone gives you advice, hear it out, keep it in mind, but at the same time, you should do your due diligence, you've come here, you've crossed so many hurdles, finally made it here, and now, are you just gonna do what people ask you to do, or you're gonna do your own research and see what's best for you? Have all your options, have the pros and cons of everything. I think researching things out is the way to go. So that would be one thing, and the second one would be to, I would say, to stop, stop converting the currency in your head. I know it's hard, but it's just probably a source of stress. So I would say probably that you should stop doing that. It is what it is. Use your money wisely. Especially when you're new here, you're adapting. There's always, unexpected things that come up. So use your money wisely, but not, make that conversion in your head, because that will get you nowhere. You're now in Canada. The currency is dollars, and that's it.
So some sort of currency app, I guess, converter, would you suggest? Like something like that?
No, it's something that happens, and it's not just me. I'm somebody who likes to plan things a lot. I would plan my whole day and make a list for like things I need to do over the week or even the month. And a lot of times it's something that would just happen in my head. And I know it's hard and it's automatic, but it's if you can train yourself to not do that, life will be a lot easier.
I can say it probably took me like a full year to get used to this. So it's definitely not. I can definitely say it took me like a year to get used to self-converting. So it takes a long time.
Year of university, I got 2 jobs, and when that happened, I relaxed a little bit. That I can kind of take care of myself. But prior to that, I would be thinking, oh, that, should I do this? Should I do that? I had like a startup cost. I had to set myself up, buy a new laptop. At that time, I didn't know they have back to school deals. I just got a laptop that my cousin thought would be good for me. So don't do that. Do your research, because, you know what's best for you.
So do your homework at all times. Great. So how about you, Bilal? Do you have any resources that you could point towards that really helped you out tremendously in terms of adapting to Canada?
For sure. So first of all, just before jumping into the resources, I think it's extremely, extremely important to take as much time as possible in this stage of your life where you're doing the research. It's definitely not an easy thing to do. I would say it takes months and months of work and research before you actually figure out what you need to do in terms of how you can adapt to this place and to this country, and which, and again, it involves so many different things. Research, whether, as Sister Javier said, whether it's your phone plan, what school to go to, what city to sit in, what kind of house you buy, whether you're going to rent, whether you're going to buy a house, all these different things, right? There's a lot of things that you got to research, and it takes a lot of time for you to get the right answer that suits you best. Now, in terms of resources, I'll start off by talking about the government resources. So I think a lot of people who come here do not know about the government initiatives and benefits that Canada offers. So whether it's OHIP, whether it's childcare expenses, tax breaks, other benefits, right? Other credits that people over here can take advantage of. So things like this, I think it's extremely important to do that research as well, and see how you can take advantage of these government grants and resources that are provided to you as an immigrant to allow you to settle in, find the right job, and spend the first couple of months as easily as possible. And these are all of these can be found on the government's website, so they're easily accessible and they're free to the public. There's also other resources that I personally took advantage of. So, for example, I think the biggest thing is relatives, I would say. right? As cliche as it sounds, but the people who are living here are probably those who can help you the most. They can give you the most readily available advice. So if you have relatives here who have lived for a long time, speak to them. Try to get the insights from them, understand the system from them, see what advice they can give you. If you don't have relatives, maybe friends or some acquaintances that you've had in the past, speak to them, see what they can offer you. And other than that, just organizations. So again, coming here, there's a very strong Muslim community, so you can go reach out to the mosques. There's a lot of services and help that they provide to newcomers. There's again, government offers some newcomer services, as well as employment services, so you can go to them, seek help when it comes to how can you find a job, how should your resume look like, how should you interview, these kind of things. I think the last thing is really networking. So when you're here, actually start networking before coming here, but once you're here, try to network as much as possible, meet people from all different kinds, and see how they can help you, because at the end of the day, this is a country that's based on networking and connections that you have, and if you want to make it far, you got to have the right connections that will guide you in your life here.
MashaAllah. Great, wonderful conversation for you both. We have time for just one more question, and as always, I'd like to leave it up about regarding parting thoughts. So Sister Javeria, let's say we got a young Muslim sister. She's thinking about hopping on over to Canada. What advice would you give her? Let's say as a older sister to a younger one. What would you say? What would be your advice, parting words of wisdom for her to be successful in making that transition as smooth as possible?
Word of advice would be never trust anybody too much. Always have your guard up. And like the point that I mentioned before, always do your research, as to whatever you're doing. Have it all planned out. Life doesn't work out the way you plan it most of the time. But if you have a fair idea of certain things you want to achieve, have that in mind, and then decide to come, because it's a whole new life and a world here. So the more you familiarize yourself with how life is here, and the more you can look into it, the more easy the transition will be.
So mashallah. So take care. Stranger danger is an actual thing, and ask Sheikh Google if you have any questions. Always have them by your side. So, all right, Bilal, please take us home with this. Let's say, as an older brother, you're looking at a younger brother who's wanting to, board the train or the plane and want to hop onto Canada. What would you say? What advice would you give to make sure everything goes a-okay?
Yeah, so I'll give the advice that I usually give for every aspect of your life. It's really the mindset and what's in here. So really have a very positive mindset about coming here. So it's, as we were saying earlier, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of challenges throughout the years that you're here. Have a very open mindset, open to opportunities, open to change, because as we said, there's a lot of different things that are going to come your way, a lot of changes that you need to adapt to. So being able to have that mindset that allows you to go through all of this easily is extremely important. So that's one thing. The other thing is, as I said before, really spend time researching. Coming here, there's going to be a lot of new challenges, a lot of new things, and if you're not ready, it's going to be really hard, right? So come here prepared, do your research before coming in, well in advance, and while you're here, be able to be flexible, change your plans where needed, and make the most out of your experience here, right? I think those are the main two things. And then the last thing, obviously, is community. Community is going to have your back, right? Through the good days, through the bad days. So having that niche that you can go to, that can act as your second family over here, is extremely important, where you can feel like you're at home. I think those are my top 3 tips.
MashaAllah, man. It's all about up here, the relationships you build, and beautiful stuff. So thank you both, Sister Javeria, Brother Bilal. Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your experience and sharing your knowledge about this whole conversation. Inshallah, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever we've said would be of benefit to those, let's say the future generations, those who are wanting to, who want to stop by the land of opportunity to build that life for themselves. Inshallah, hopefully they can take at least one thing away from this whole conversation. So thank you both so much. And to all the viewers, I want to thank you all as well for stopping by Muslim Network TV. If you really liked what you heard, if you really enjoyed these conversations or any previous conversations or future conversations, we always want to hear from you. Communication is a two-way street. Always feel free to connect with Muslim Network TV. If you have any comments, things you want to say, or ideas, by all means, we always want to engage that conversation. It's always a two-way street. So thank you again so much for stopping by. Canada Today Youth Edition is on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to all of you, stay strong, stay safe, and stay proud as Muslims. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.